I'm Dr. Tim LaPira. I am Associate Professor of Political Science in the Department of Political Science at James Madison University. I tend to study politics inside the Beltway. So the politics of American institutions, the Congress, the White House. In particular, I tend to focus on intergroup politics and from there, how lobbyists try to influence Congress. So I'm working on a book right now on revolving door lobbying, which is the phenomenon where people work inside the government and then go through the so-called revolving door and become a lobbyist so that they can have access to those inside government. And the truth of the matter is that we know very little about how this works other than the fact that we know it exists. So I'm trying to study this phenomenon a little bit more systematically by, as best we can, counting how many people actually do this and trying to estimate from there how prevalent it is and whether or not somebody who has gone through this revolving door is actually more or less influential. We found that only about 1% of lobbyists are former members of Congress. So what I'm trying to do is find out who's that 99% that aren't former members of Congress, and do they do things differently, and do they have more or less of an impact? Some of the things that I found out by exploring what lobbyists, who they are and what it is that they're doing, is that even though we have some transparency laws on the books, they're wholly inadequate, that they are essentially failures, and that in recent years we find a number of lobbyists simply choosing not to disclose their activities, and they're not even violating the law, which tells me that the law is flawed. So hopefully some of the information that we can gather can persuade policymakers that maybe it's time to revisit this before a scandal happens. What drives me to conduct basic research is not just necessarily an abstract pursuit of knowledge, but it's fun. It's fun to be able to ask any question I want, and with a little bit of training to be able to come up with the means to answer those questions in innovative ways. So conducting the research itself is really the first part. The other part is publishing that research and sharing it with a community of scholars. And it's incredibly rewarding when somebody who, in my field, who I have a great deal of respect for and who have influenced me, read something of mine and give me a call or shoot me an email and say, wow, I learned something from that. And it's, so that motivation right there makes this a really fun career. Involving students in research is a way to teach, essentially, that I can't get across in the classroom. In a classroom, in a lecture, or even a discussion, when we're reading complex material, it's often delivered in a very abstract way. When you have students conducting research along with you, and I consider them my partners, not just working for me, that they learn a lot more about the subject matter, and I have students in here who quite literally want to pursue careers in the topic that I'm studying. So they're learning a lot, and ultimately down the road, they're going to be able to go to a future potential employer and say, I know as much about this, this industry and this profession as somebody who's worked in it for 5 to 10 years. I think the most inspiring and the most rewarding moments I have as a professor is when I can sit down one-on-one with a student who comes in perhaps a bit puzzled about something that we're reading or something that I'm talking about in class, and I try to rethink about how I'm talking about that issue or try to come up with an analogy that might be relevant in their lives, and you see the light bulb go off. And there's nothing more rewarding than seeing a student walk out of my office with a smile on her face because she learned something. As our students' t-shirts say, that they bleed purple, that there's something about JMU that people are happy to be here, and the students are happy to be here, and that creates a great working environment, that it is contagious like a lot of things. I'd put my best students here at JMU up against the best students at any university in the country. So why would I want to be anywhere else?
This video was produced by